1. The edge of the galaxy. The outer colonies of the galaxy were not kind places. They were the forgotten corners of civilization, dusty stations, mining outposts, and half-lawless settlements where traders, refugees, and wanderers tried to survive. Governments rarely cared about these places, and the powerful empires that controlled the inner systems almost never visited. That was exactly why I lived there. My name is Jonah Hale, and I ran a small repair shop on Outpost K-47, a rusting space station floating near the edge of the Perseus expanse. It wasn't glamorous work. Most days I fixed broken cargo drones, old mining shuttles, and occasionally patched up battered ships belonging to smugglers who didn't ask questions and didn't want any asked. Life on K-47 was simple, quiet, lonely, and I preferred it that way. The station itself was an old relic. Metal corridors creaked with age, and flickering lights painted everything in dull yellow shadows. The air smelled like engine oil, recycled oxygen, and burnt circuitry. But it was home. At least until the day I met the alien child who would change everything. 2. A strange discovery. It started during a cold cycle shift when most of the station had gone quiet. I had just finished repairing a cargo drone and was closing my shop for the night when I heard something strange outside the door. A soft scraping sound. At first, I thought it was one of the station's maintenance bots. But when I opened the door, I saw something else. A small figure sitting against the corridor wall. At first glance, I thought it was just a homeless kid. K-47 had plenty of those. Children of refugees or traders who had disappeared somewhere in the vastness of space. But this child was different. His skin had a faint silver glow under the dim station lights. His eyes were large and deep violet, reflecting the corridor like tiny stars. He wore torn clothing that clearly wasn't made for human bodies, strange fabric stitched with patterns I had never seen before. And he looked terrified. When our eyes met, he flinched and tried to back away, but he was too weak. "Hey, easy," I said softly. He didn't respond. I crouched down slowly. "You lost." Still nothing. But then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The kid was shaking. Not from fear. From hunger. 3. The choice. Outpost K-47 wasn't a kind place. People survived by looking after themselves. If someone was weak, they were usually ignored. Helping strangers could be dangerous. But something about that child's eyes stopped me. He wasn't begging. He wasn't crying. He just looked exhausted, like someone who had already given up. I sighed and stood up. "Stay there," I told him. I went back into my shop and grabbed a food pack from my storage locker. It wasn't anything special, just protein bars and nutrient drink, but it was better than nothing. When I returned, the boy hadn't moved. I placed the food pack gently on the floor between us. "Go ahead," I said. For a moment, he hesitated. Then slowly, carefully, he reached forward and picked up the food. He stared at it like he didn't believe it was real. Then he opened it and started eating. The way he devoured that food told me everything I needed to know. The kid hadn't eaten in days, maybe longer. After a few minutes, he slowed down and looked up at me. His voice was quiet and uncertain. "Thank you." His accent was strange, but his language was perfectly understandable. That surprised me. Most alien species didn't speak human common so easily. "What's your name, kid?" I asked. He hesitated, then said softly, "Kale." 4. A hidden past. Over the next few days, Kale stayed in my shop. At first, he barely spoke. He mostly sat quietly in the corner, watching me work while slowly regaining his strength. But I began noticing things. Strange things. For one, Kale was incredibly intelligent. He understood complex machinery faster than most adult mechanics I knew. Once, he even pointed out a flaw in a ship's power converter that I had completely missed. Another thing was his behavior. Despite being a child, he carried himself with a strange calmness, almost like someone trained to stay composed under pressure. But the most unusual thing was the way other aliens reacted to him. One evening, a trader from the Volari species walked into my shop. The moment he saw Kale, his eyes widened. He quickly lowered his head in what looked suspiciously like a bow. Kale noticed and immediately looked uncomfortable. After the trader left, I turned to him. "Okay," I said slowly. "You're going to tell me what that was about." Kale looked down at the floor. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he whispered the words that changed everything. "My father is Emperor." 5. The Prince in Hiding. At first, I thought I had misheard him. "Emperor?" I repeated. Kale nodded slowly. "My home is the Aurelian Empire." That name sent a chill down my spine. The Aurelian Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They controlled hundreds of star systems and possessed fleets that could destroy entire planets. Their royal family ruled with absolute authority. And, according to Kale, he was part of it. "I don't understand," I said. "If you're royalty, why are you here starving on a rundown station?" Kale's eyes darkened. There was attack. He took a deep breath. Our royal convoy was traveling through neutral space. Pirates attacked, but they were not ordinary pirates. His hands trembled slightly. They were hired. By who? Kale looked away. "Someone who wants my father dead and me gone." The truth hit me like a meteor strike. Someone had tried to assassinate the imperial heir, and the only survivor had ended up hiding on my forgotten station. I ran a hand through my hair. "Well," I muttered, "that's fantastic." 6. The hunters arrive. 2 days later, trouble came to K-47. 3 black warships appeared near the station. They didn't broadcast any government signal, but their design screamed military. Inside the station, panic spread quickly. Armed soldiers began entering the corridors. They wore dark armor with no visible insignia, but their weapons were advanced, dangerously advanced. I watched from the shop window as they moved through the station like predators. Searching. My stomach twisted. "They're looking for you," I said quietly. Kale stood beside me, pale. "Yes." "What happens if they find you?" He hesitated. "Then the Empire will fall." 7. The escape. We didn't have much time. I grabbed my jacket and started packing supplies. Kale watched nervously. "What are we doing?" he asked. "Leaving. But you could be arrested for helping me." I shrugged. "Kid, if those guys are willing to hunt a child across the galaxy, I'm not exactly interested in cooperating with them." I led him through the back corridors of the station toward my small ship dock. The Rust Wind wasn't pretty. It was an old cargo vessel with patched armor and mismatched engines. But it could fly, and right now that was enough. As we reached the docking bay, alarms suddenly blared. Footsteps echoed down the corridor behind us. "They found us," Kale whispered. I slammed the ship hatch open. Inside, we rushed into the cockpit. Outside the window, soldiers appeared in the docking bay. They raised their weapons. I didn't wait. The engines roared to life. The Rust Wind blasted out of the station just as laser fire erupted behind us. 8. Chased across the stars. Enemy ships launched within minutes. Fast. Too fast. Kale gripped the seat as our ship dodged through asteroid fields. "They won't stop," he said quietly. I figured that. Missile warning alarm screamed. I pushed the engines harder. The Rust Wind shook violently as we jumped into warp space, just seconds before the missiles reached us. For a moment, silence filled the cockpit. Kale looked at me with wide eyes. You saved me. I gave a tired smile. Don't thank me yet, kid. We're still in deep trouble. 9. The truth about Kale. During the long journey through deep space, Kale finally told me the full truth. His father, Emperor Valerian, ruled the Aurelian Empire. But the empire wasn't as stable as it appeared. Powerful nobles were plotting against the throne. One of them had arranged the attack on the royal convoy. If Kale died, the emperor would lose his only heir, and the empire would fall into chaos. That was the real goal. Kale wasn't just a child. He was the key to the balance of power across hundreds of star systems. And somehow, I had become his protector. 10. A message to the empire. Eventually, we reached a hidden communication relay used by the Aurelian military. Kale activated it with a coded signal. Moments later, a massive hologram appeared in the cockpit. A tall alien figure wearing royal armor looked down at us. The Emperor himself. His glowing golden eyes locked onto Kale. My son. Kale smiled for the first time since I met him. Father. The Emperor then turned his gaze toward me. And you, human. His voice was powerful enough to make the room feel smaller. You protected my child. I nodded awkwardly. Someone had to. The Emperor studied me for a long moment. Then he said something I never expected. The Aurelian Empire owes you a debt that cannot be repaid. 11. A new beginning. Aurelian warships arrived shortly after. Massive, beautiful vessels that dwarfed my little Rustwind. Imperial soldiers escorted Kale safely aboard. Before leaving, he turned back to me. You saved my life, he said quietly. You gave me food when I had nothing. I shrugged. That's what people are supposed to do. Kale smiled. One day, when I become emperor, I will remember that. Then he stepped onto the Imperial ship. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace moments later. And just like that, the alien orphan I had protected was gone. But somewhere in the galaxy, a future emperor remembered the human who had refused to let him die. And sometimes, that's enough to change the fate of the stars.